Hi, everybody. So somebody requested that one of the problems from the practice problems I assigned to do Tuesday, Wednesday, and today is number 14 from page 469. So here you can see page 469, number 14. And the problem says something like this. You have an object that has a height or a size of 3.0 centimeters. It is 20.0 centimeters from a mirror, which means DO, the object distance, is 20.0 centimeters. That has a radius of curvature of 16.0 centimeters. In other words, the center of curvature is 16.0 centimeters from the mirror. Now, if you remember from the book, from the reading, from examples that Mr. Dietz did with you before you left, that center of curvature is important. We're not going to use it in any equations, but it helps us to find something that we are going to use. So we'll get to that in a minute. And then the question asks, find how far the image is from the mirror, DI, the image distance, and find out the size of the image or the height of the image, HI. So that's what we know, and that's what we're going to find out. Now, the two equations we're going to use are the mirror equation, 1 over F equals 1 over DO plus 1 over DI, and then the magnification equation. All right, and we'll talk about what that negative sign there means when we get to using that for that part of the equation, okay? So we're going to start with this equation, solving for DI. We know DO, we're looking for DI, and the question is, what is F? Well, this is where the radius of curvature comes in. What you need to know is that the radius of curvature is equal to 2 times the focal length. The radius, the center of curvature, is always 2 focal lengths away from the mirror. So that means that the focal length is always half the radius of curvature. And in this case, that means 8 centimeters. All right? So that is our focal length. The focal length is always half the radius of curvature. The radius of curvature is always twice the focal length. So our focal length in this problem is 8. So what we know is that 1 over 8 equals 1 over 20 plus 1 over DI. And we're trying to solve for DI. Okay? Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this at this point. Let me suggest this process for these problems. First of all, I want to get the fractions over on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 1 over 20 on both sides. So over here, that cancels. And what I get is 1 over DI equals 1 over 8 minus 1 over 20. Okay. Now, this is where the decision comes in. You can do this one of two ways. You can say, oh, fractions. I know how to solve fractions. I've got to find a common denominator, and then I just subtract and all. You can do it that way. Sometimes it's easy to do it that way. Sometimes it's really hard to do it that way. I'm going to suggest you to do it the way that I'm going to tell you now, always, because there's consistency in it. What you should do is treat these fractions like exactly what they are, division problems. 1 over 8 really means 1 divided by 8. That's what the fraction means. 1 over 20 really means 1 divided by 20. So when you look at this, don't think of it as a fraction. Think of it as a division problem and a subtraction problem. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 1 divided by 8 minus 1 divided by 20 equals. And what I get is 0.075 equals 1 over DI. 0.075 equals 1 over DI. Now that is not my answer. That's 1 divided by DI. I need to find DI. What I know from doing this fraction, division problem, and then subtraction is that 1 divided by di equals 0.075. Now, to find di, I need to take the inverse. And I luckily have a nice little x to the -1 button on this calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the x to the -1 button, and it says answer to the -1. And that tells me that the answer is di equals 13.3 centimeters. Okay? Now, if you don't have an x to the -1 button or you can't find it, okay, that's fine. Then here's all you need to do. You need to do what the x to the -1 button does. 1 divided by 0.075 equals di. You just have to flip it. You just have to flip it. So instead of having 0.075, you have 1 over 0.075. And if you enter into your calculator 1 divided by 0.075, you're going to get 13.3. All right. So that's the answer to the first part of the problem. di is 13.3 centimeters. All right, now you can pause right now and go back and see that again if you want. Okay, really the trickiest part, I think, is solving the fraction and then understanding how to flip to get di. 1 divided by 0.075. But feel free to go back and watch that again. Now I'm going to erase some stuff because obviously I'm running out of room. I don't have a very big whiteboard. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. Okay. And I'm going to, well, I don't need to rewrite it because I've got it written down over here. 13.3 is di. And I need to find hi. For the second part of the problem, I'm going to use this equation. And I'm going to use this part of it. Negative di over do equals hi over ho. And I want to know hi. I want to know the height of the image. How big is the image? Well, look, I know ho is 3. I know do is 20. And I know di is 13.3. So I'm going to plug those numbers in. Negative 13.3 over 20 equals hi over, what was ho? 3. Okay. Now, whenever I see two fractions equaling each other like this, I don't know about you, but what I think is cross multiply and then divide. All right. I'm sure you've heard that before. I'm sure you've done that before. But when you start seeing this, and you'll see it whenever you see this magnification equation, you'll see it. You need to start thinking about that again. Cross multiply and divide, right? Cross multiply and divide. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like this. 20 times hi equals 3 times negative 13.3. All right, I need a little calculator action here. 3 times 13.3 equals, so what I have is 20 hi equals negative 39.9. Okay, so when I divide both sides by 20, I get hi equals, I think I know what this is. Yeah, over 20. If I round it off, I get negative 2 centimeters. Now you might ask yourself, well, what's the negative sign mean? All that means is that the image is upside down. That's what that negative sign means. It means that the image is upside down. In other words, you have a real image and it's inverted, right? Real images are inverted. So that's what that hi means. All right, so that is the solution to number 14. I will post another solution to a different problem later on, but that's the first one. All right, great. Thanks, everybody.